success, wealth, recognition. Gary Cooper had it all, lost it all, then turned a revolutionary discovery into the success paradox. Here's Gary.
I'm back with Joe Moglia, the former CEO of TD Ameritrade and the former head coach of Coastal Carolina. So Joe, we've talked a lot about your successes. I want to talk some about your challenges. I experienced a lot of difficulty 7 years ago. I had 3 hip replacements, back surgery, and a really big pity party. But thank God, he just kind of reached down and to be honest, he just kind of bitch slapped me, and that woke me up. You mentioned a couple of your difficulties in your life. Are there any others that you can share?
Yeah. I think there are 2. The first thing, it may not come across now because I do a good job of controlling it, but I've got a very serious stutter. And when I was growing up, grammar school, high school, college, even if I knew an answer, I would have raised my hand in class because I was afraid I couldn't get my words out. And if you think about the philosophy of band, there's no excuses. Now, I didn't write that till I was the spring of my senior year in college. But that philosophy about just taking responsibility for yourself was, again, I was a father already. I had to go to work at a fruit store from the time I was 10 years old. So I always I was the oldest of 5. So always kind of taking responsibility was important. When I was captain of a team, it was important to me to be captain and do a good job recognizing I represent the team, not just myself. So when I decided after my freshman year, when I was driving a cab and working at the post office, working with my father, and I had a chance to coach, well, coach got to be able to communicate. And either I was going to decide, well, I can't do that. And I knew I'd love doing it, but I can't do it because I can't talk. Or I better figure the fuck this out. And I'd stand, I figured that out. I didn't have I wasn't going to therapist. I didn't know what that was. So I stand in front of a mirror and I work for hours and hours and hours and hours. Remember, first time around as a coach too, you talk on the telephone. There's no social media. Social media is the world's best thing for a stutterer because you don't have to do that. But what happened is over time, to this day, now I give commencement addresses and I give a reasonable amount of talks. I go on television. But every time I'm doing that, I have an anxiety before I get up. But I've done it so much and I've done it so often and I'm confident and I always prepare well that I'm okay. So I had to overcome that. That's number one. And the other things that I think that, I'm big on family that, really matters to me. Family, close friends, really that matter. The people I coach matters to me. I've been divorced twice. And I was the first one in my family ever to get a divorce. But we got married as teenagers. You kind of maybe explain that. You could maybe see that. And then later on, I was single for 14 years. And then I remarried in 1995. And so that was a lady with me, my senior executive time, Merrill Lynch. And she was the one. And I have 2 stepsons. I have 4 original kids. Kelly, Kim, Karen, Kevin. We call them the Ks. Then my 2 stepsons, Johnny and Jeff. We call them the Js. We don't even know the names of them, the Ks and the Js. So I raised them. And then, Amy and the boys moved with me to Omaha in 2001. At some point, Amy and my life started moving a little bit of a different direction. Ameritrade was going out of business. Everybody knew that. And the fact that we pulled it together, we had thousands of employees just in Omaha. And we became somebody in Omaha. I had quarterly dinners with Warren Buffett. Most people didn't know that in Omaha. But so my wife, it always takes 2 in a relationship. So I'm not saying I didn't have any fault. But when I coach in Nebraska, Nebraskans love football. So the fact that their Ameritrade guy is coaching at Nebraska, oh my God, Amy loved that. Okay. Then when I got the job at the UFL, the Omaha Nighthawks, we played at TD Ameritrade Park. We didn't even know we were going to have a game in a week. I would still sell out the stadium, 25,000 people. Amy loved that. But she knew I wanted to be a head college coach. And when I got the job at Coastal, Amy bought the house in Prince George in 2010. 2009, when I was beginning at Nebraska, I said, spring practice, sweetie, is going to be tough. And I've been away for a long time. Lincoln, where football is an hour away from Omaha. And so I'm going to be working 14, 15 hours a day, 3 nights a week or so. I've got to stay up there. I'll probably be up the whole time in August. Great time to get a family vacation. So her mother and her sister lived in Columbia. And they suggested this place in Pawleys Island, Prince George, and it was the house. She comes back and says, "Yo, we got to buy this house." I said, "Whoa, we didn't even know we were going to live. I didn't know we were going to get a job. We didn't know what's going to happen. No, I can't buy the house." But then 2010, I go back to Nebraska. She goes down the same house. She comes back again. She said, "Look, I'm standing behind you on this football stuff. The least you can do is stand behind me on this house." And we always said we might want to play to the ocean. I also know that a house in Prince George is a lot cheaper than a house on the Jersey Shore or the Hamptons. I also know that. So we want to buy the house. I never saw the house. The first time I saw the house was when I met Dave DeCenzo. We own the house. We own the house for 2 years. Now, here's the point I'm making. So now in 2012, I live in Myrtle Beach, and I can't drive an hour back and forth 2 hours a day. I can't do that. Not as I'm coaching. I'm working 14, 15 hours a day. And Amy said, Joe, at the end of the day, I really don't want to be married to a football coach. And, I can live in South Carolina. I said, you bought a house in South Carolina. But I really pointed out I didn't want to be married to a football coach. So I went through a divorce, after 13 years when I was at Dartmouth. And then I went through a divorce my first year here. So my first year here, nobody liked me because I was taking over for Bennett and they all liked him, even though he should have been fired. And then, so I'm the New Yorker, or the Northerner coming into the South, and I talk funny, and I'm going through a divorce. My brother had moved down to Myrtle Beach, coincidentally, like around 1990, about 5 years before that. He died that spring. So it was a tough first year. I got 4 tickets that year, and 2 of them were like right in front of campus going 42 and a 35. That's because they aged me. Now, thankfully, we started winning right away. We started winning conferences. Our kids started graduating. We started getting All-Americans. I'm coach of the year, blah, 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 blah. How do I know I've been accepted down here? Because in the last 11 years, I've been pulled over 9 times, and I've gotten 0 tickets.
Winning has its perks, right?
This does.
Yeah. I saw that in one of your speeches that was scientific proof that your acceptance down here had improved.
Clear empirical evidence.
Yeah. One of the things everybody's talking about, the NIL money. Now, we don't have to talk about it long, but what I think about is the PGA had a monopoly for a long time. Now they're all in an uproar, that the LIV and all that stuff. And, when I first heard the LIV, and I don't, this is just my opinion. I don't really care what other people think. Those PGA guys are independent agents. They don't play for, say, the Miami Dolphins. They have to file like 50 different tax returns for all the states they play in. So the PGA has people from all over the world playing for the PGA. And then the LIV comes in and the PGA is like, oh, no. You can't do both. I kind of feel the same way about the NIL money. Now, I don't have any background in this at all, but I feel like the NCAA did kind of like the PGA. Like they waited too long. Like they had a monopoly on these kids and made fortunes for so long. And then it feels like the rich schools are going to get richer and the coastals are going to still struggle the way they're paying. It feels like to me, and I'm a layperson, I don't know anything about anything, but it feels like the Texas schools, because they have all the billionaires down there in Texas, and the Notre Dames and the USCs and the Alabamas, the big rich schools are going to get richer, and the coastals are still, and the UCFs, which has a great football program, are still going to struggle. It's a layperson's opinion.
Yeah, but it's a very accurate professional opinion as well. I think the comparison to the PGA is a good one. By the way, have you seen Full Swing?
Yeah, I've watched some of it, yeah.
I think actually I really enjoy. I was been binging on it the last couple of weeks. I watched the last episode a couple of nights ago over the weekend, and that's its second season is a lot about the whole thing going on with Liv, et cetera. I've been very, very outspoken on this, but the money became critical because of the TV revenues generated for the Power 5 schools. So in 2024, this year, the typical team in the Big Ten, not the new ones that have just joined it, is probably going to get close to $100 million a year just for football. This is not what they make on the stadium. This is just $100 million a year. Now, the SEC and all the other leagues are behind. The SEC is probably going to make 70 a year. The lowest paid is the ACC, and they're going to make 45 and 50 a year just for football.
And, they're leaving. Some of the top 2 schools are having a lawsuit to get out of the ACC,
because
right?
They want to leave.
Florida State and UNC.
And the reason for that is just the other leagues, they got higher TV revenue. That's how this started. So it was, well, how come we got to get a piece of the money? How we need a piece of the money? And the NCAA starts. So I don't have a problem with players getting paid. I have a problem with when NIL was announced, it was about 2.5 years ago, the NCAA totally abdicated their responsibility. They were nowhere to be found. It's, in my opinion, it's the most horrific example of leadership I've seen in my lifetime. It's a joke. I happened to be given a keynote address about 3 weeks after the NIL was announced, about 3 years ago in Dallas at Division I athletic directors. And they had me go last, and they wanted my unfiltered perspective of the state of college athletics. I said, "You guys really want to?" I have a
feeling they would have gotten that anyway.
Well, I was originally supposed to talk about leadership. We're talking about BAM. They said, "You'll forget BAM. Let's talk about this," because that's all they would talk about that over that day and a half. And I said what I just said. I said, "This is a disgrace." I said, Mark Emmert, who was the president of NCAA at the time, should be fired right now on the spot. Should be fired. His executive team should be fired. If they're not fired, the board should be fired. I said, NCAA athletics should totally leave the NCAA. Fire them, leave, and put together your own independent group. There's no reason why you can't do that. But the athletic leadership across the country, they haven't done anything either. They haven't done anything. So this is truly, truly, truly the Wild West. There are still no rules. There are still no guidelines. If the NFL ran themselves like college football is today, they go out of business. So I am advocating strongly that Power 5 football breaks away from the NCAA altogether and hires their own executive group, models themselves after the NFL. And once they get that right, the rest of us start to follow. But
Joe, you know what's interesting? I was telling my son he wants to major in sports management. He's a young kid. And I said, "You know what, son? My dad taught me to be a contrarian. Whether he meant to or not, that's what I learned. If I were a kid that wanted to major in sports, I would try to figure out how to become the NIL money manager. That's what I would do, because out of chaos is opportunity. And it is a ton of chaos right now. And I had bumped into a guy who had left. He was a lawyer from Notre Dame. He was an assistant coach at UNC, and that's exactly what he's doing. I just think some smart people, I think your idea is brilliant. That's way above the pay grade, but somebody needs to be the repository and the third party to manage these funds. I'm sure they're already doing that. I'm not some genius, but a good opportunity for my kid.
And I agree with that. Now, it's still new and it's still growing. And again, because college athletics move so slowly. I mean, first of all, the top 5 conferences, really top 4 conferences now, the average player, is making $103,000. The money is so huge. And then the NIL money comes in, as you said before. What I just told you about the television, that's above and beyond NIL. That's for the school. But a kid can come in and begin at Coastal Carolina. First of all, now, you don't even want a freshman. If we bring in a freshman, he's any good, somebody's going to take him. Somebody's going to buy him. You're going to buy him.
You want a portal.
Right, Bill, you'll go right to the portal, somebody's going to buy him. And then, so you recruit it off the portal. But if you recruit off the portal, the kid can transfer again if you want. A kid can play at 4 different schools if he wants to in 4 years.
So coaching now is so much harder than coaching. It's actually managing the portal.
That's right. I think I would look at it very, very much like that. A real key in coaching is the ability to recruit and build a program. You know, your upperclassmen, like bringing young kids along, that's your culture you kicked off the podcast about. But in terms of the coach's responsibility now, recruiting is less important to him. Facilities are less important. It used to be like, I'm going to other schools to get much better facilities than you do. Well, the other school may have better facilities than you do, but you're going to give me $250,000. This guy should give me $100,000. And for kids that don't make much money, if you give them $10,000, that could be a big difference.
Well, you called it chess earlier. Now you have to have the chess pieces. Now your chess pieces, you're losing your chess pieces all the time. You have to make sure you're getting the damn chess pieces.
Yeah, they're going to play on a better board over there.
It's crazy.
Yeah, so it's the reason why it's crazy because there's no structure, there's no guidelines, there's no rules, and there's nothing.
In your business world, it's almost like we have a real high turnover rate in our call center. So we staff up on our recruiters. We hire outside recruiters. We put every kind of thing we can put in that center, stay on bonuses and all those kind of things. So, I mean, you have to pivot when that kind of thing occurs. And I imagine that's what football coaches are having to do. they're having to figure out a new system, put in new, different personnel to manage that side of the business, if you will. That's who's going to win, the people who have the chess pieces.
I've always felt that you're like head of recruiting, head of player development in the college. Almost always it's a coach. And I think it's not a coaching job. It's a marketing and sales job. Go get a marketing and sales person to be able to do this. Well, now the money really, really takes over. And, there's only so much you can do. Have you seen Moneyball? Brad Pitt?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, it's the Moneyball. So, like, how do you manage with less resources than your competitors? How do you manage and still are able to compete? Now, the first thing I'm saying is that, we can play a Power 5 school and we can beat them, but we can't beat them all the time. They got too many more resources than we do. We're probably never going to beat Alabama. But we got to compete at the top of the level of the. So you got Division 1, you got Power 5, then you got the Group of 5, like Sun Belt Conference, et cetera. And then you got FCS, like one AA, where we used to be. You got to be at the top of that heap. You got to be able to do that. So probably the average budget, I'm reasonably close to this, average budget in the Big Ten for NIL per school is probably about $10 million a year. That's from the alumni, okay? Last year, our NIL money to our kids is probably more like $250. Now, I'm saying we need to get to like $1 million. And when I say $1 million, like everybody faints. No, you need $1 million. Now, if somebody's going to be going for 6 figures someplace, okay, we can't compete with that. Let them go. But we can't be losing guys for $50,000 to Appalachian State or James Madison. We can't let that happen. Those guys got the money. They're happy to pay it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about the Texas schools, TCU, Baylor. They can pick up the phone and call their alumni, get practically anything they want because they have the oil money guys. They have the deeper pockets down there. And states like South Carolina and Iowa and states like that, South Dakota, you just don't have that kind of wealth.
I agree. So NIL is here to stay. It's just that there's no parameters around it. Again, if it's the NFL, it's going out of business. But there's so much money now in Power 5 football. It's like everybody just kind of wants the money.
Well, look, man, Joe, you do not disappoint, man. Your energy, your success at TD Ameritrade. What are the numbers? The numbers are you went there and the company was at $700 million. You left and it was at $10 billion?
From 2001, it was $700 million. When I stepped down at the end of 2008, which is including, we were at $14 billion in 2007. The financial crisis knocked $4 billion off of that. So we went from $700 million to $10 billion, including the financial crisis. The whole time I was coaching, I was chairman of Ameritrade. So I negotiated the deal with Schwab. So that's a $40 billion deal that we did. $26 billion was the actual price of $14 billion synergy. So it was $40 billion package. So we closed that in 2020. The other thing in finance is the assets you have within the firm is important. So when it began, we had $700 million market cap and had $24 billion in assets. When I stepped down, we had $10 billion in market cap and we had $1 trillion in assets. By the time we did the Schwab deal, we were up to $1.8 trillion. When we closed the Schwab deal, the market cap for the combined company was $100 million and $7.2 trillion. That's over an 18-year period.
Now let's go to your football record. Your football record is what?
Overall, it's 56-22, and then I was 51-15 at the 1AA FCS level. That's why we didn't apply. We were invited to go up. And my first year at the FBS level, we were 5-7, and we've done really well.
What are some of the first for Coastal?
Yeah, we won our first playoff game. We went to the playoffs every year. I was at the FCS level.
Every year.
We've got, except for after the first 2 seasons, we've gone to a bowl game every year now.
Bowl game.
But by the way, I still run football. I'm executive director of football. So, like, I hired my successor and I hired his successor. So, proud of those things. I think in 2015, I was the first National Coach of the Year in the history of Coastal Carolina.
Wow.
The Eddie Robinson Award. Then in 2016, Gary Gilmore, having won the National Baseball Championship, he became the second National Coach of the Year. In 2017, I won the Lombardi Award, which is a national award at Duncan Lombardi Hall of Fame, which would be the equivalent to a second National Coach of the Year award. So I was head coach for 6 years, and 6 years I was National Coach of the Year award twice. Then in 2020, Jamie Chadwell, my successor, he was National Coach of the Year award. So we've had, since 2015, the university's had 4 National Coach of the Year awards. 2 of mine, 1 was Jamie's, 3 in football, 1 in baseball.
And I'm just sitting here smiling because I'm thinking the whole time that came from your 22-year-old Bam.
That's right.
Be a man. And that means be a man, be a woman, be just
Be a leader.
And what are the 3 main things of Bam?
Stand on your own 2 feet. Take responsibility for yourself. Treat others with dignity and respect. Live with the consequences of your actions.
I mean, that's just incredible. Joe, thank you so much for joining my podcast today, man. This was unbelievable. I hope a lot of people listen to it because it can change your life.
Gary, I really did very much appreciate this. I appreciate your preparation. I appreciate your background too. And we're neighbors. We should make it a point to try to get together one of these days.
Let's plan on it.
Thank you.
And that wraps up another episode of the Success Paradox. If you like the show, please take a moment to subscribe so you'll get notified when I release new episodes. Also, if you have a moment, I'd love it if you left us a review so that other incredible individuals like yourself can learn about the show. I'll see you next time.
To learn and practice the Success Paradox lifestyle, visit GaryCCooper.com. The Success Paradox is a production of Forbes Books.